Welcome back to the Blueprint to Ultra podcast with your hosts, Steve Epifano and Jeff Winchester. Our goal with this podcast is to help you put together your own plan for your next ultra. We do this by interviewing a variety of guests that range from back of the pack to elite runners that share their own experiences for us all to learn from. There is no doubt that you will be able to take plenty away from our next guest to put into your own blueprint. Currently resides in California and most recently just completed his first 100-mile race at the UTMB Kodiak 100 miler. He also happens to be a great friend and one of the athletes that I coach. He also did an excellent job of crewing me at Mammoth 200, his first crewing job at a 200. So that was an experience. One thing that I consistently see from our next guest is his infectious personality, positivity, and love of community. I've seen this guy meet friends everywhere he goes. He also loves to have fun while running. He's run the New York City Marathon the past 2 years, and in 2024, he met a person every mile and interviewed them while posting a PR. And then this year, 2025, he ran the marathon with another buddy while wearing a suit dressed as a newscaster and interviewed people along the way, while most of us were struggling to get through in our normal running gear. We're excited to have him on the show and can't wait to hear all about Kodiak. With that, welcome Callan Kranenberg to the show. Thanks for coming on, Cal.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Jeff. That was an awesome intro, man. I'm glad you included the back of the Packers because I was like, yes, I belong. Appreciate you guys.
That is awesome. Well, Cal, it is great to meet you as well. Like Steve said, he has been coaching you. This is my first time getting to know you. I'm excited to do that as well. But I'm going to go ahead and just state the obvious. You do not sound like you're from here. So how did you end up over in California from, I'm going to guess, Australia, and end up getting to know our good friend Steve?
I'm actually from Idaho, if you couldn't.
Idaho. Perfect. Hey, it starts with a vowel and ends with a vowel, just like Australia.
It's a funny story. I grew up in a town called Perth in Western Australia, well, an hour from Perth. It's actually one of the most, I think it is the most segregated, like secluded city by distance anywhere in the world. So all the way on its own on the west coast of Australia, and grew up in the Perth Hills, so very much in the bush or the outback, as you may know it. And absolutely loved growing up there as a small community, very coastal focused as well. Australia just is one of the most beautiful places in the world, and I didn't really know that until I left. But the reason I left is because I was chasing a career, and from a young age, I was terrified of flying planes. And my sister used to go dancing in the States, so she'd come over here, and it was like an 18-hour flight from the east coast of Australia out to the west coast here, and my mum would be crying on the plane, like as we're on takeoff roll, and I used to hate it. So as a 14-year-old, I was obsessed with aircraft, and I just went full exposure therapy, and I researched all of the crashes that had ever occurred, and it really took over my life. So I ended up becoming an aerospace engineer, and in 2019 I moved from Sydney, where I did my master's. I moved to California, the Bay Area, and San Jose, and worked for NASA for a bit on the wind tunnel programs, which was amazing. So spacecraft, and almost said spacecraft there. You guys almost had me. Spacecraft and aircraft, and it was a dream come true. I went back to Australia over COVID, worked for a couple of aviation startups, and did some contracting as well. And I really, really missed the community here. I love Australia, but there's just such an ambitious force over in the States here, and I just think people are so friendly, and there's so much to do. And you consider something like ultramarathon running, there's just people who are so passionate about what they do in life, and it's so infectious, and I miss that environment. And by chance, I got an opportunity to come back here, and I've been here for 2 years and wouldn't change a thing. I absolutely love this place.
That is a great answer. I mean, I did my own stalking of you because, like I said, Steve knows you. I don't. I looked at your Instagram account, and I saw that you had, gotten your aviation's license as well. I never would have suspected that the reason that you are in that and got a degree in aerospace engineering is because you were terrified of flying. Like, that is absolutely fascinating to me. I also like that you love the ultra running community as well, which is obviously what we talk about on this show constantly. And we were going to talk about things like Kodiak and everything as well. But before we do, let's just follow that same thread of thought, if you will. What is it about the community that I guess draws you in and makes you want to stay a part of it?
So I used to play professional Australian rules football. Well, like semi-professional. That's all I wanted to do was play Australian football. And you probably don't know it, but it's a mix between rugby, American football, basketball, like volleyball, whatever sport you can think of. It's just chaos, and it's our nation's biggest sport. And I had a bad head injury. I fractured my skull, and when I was kind of at the peak of basically my career as such, when I was 20 years old, and it changed my trajectory in life. And I started focusing more on engineering, and then I found ultra running. I was actually at a sports store in Sydney. I used to sell sports shoes, watches, exercise equipment, all of that. And every year around May, there would be a heap of people in suits come through the store, and they'd buy vests and gels and water bottles and shoes, like last minute. I'm talking Friday night stuff. And we're like, where are you all going? And they were going to the UTA, the Ultra Trail Australia event, which is in the Blue Mountains of Sydney. And I think there's a 20, it's like a 25K, a 50K, and a 100K there. And yeah, so my friends, one of my friends actually said, well, we should try it out next year. So I hadn't run in a long time since I'd given up football, and I'd always been an avid runner throughout my football years. And then I stopped for about 3 years, put on a lot of size. And so I used to run a lot, and I went and ran 50Ks at the UTA in 2019 off the couch, basically. And I can tell you that I do not recommend doing that. So it was an aggressive introduction back to running and into ultra running. But the thing that stood out to me was there's these steps. They're called Furber steps. There's like 1,200 steps in the last K and a half up to the finish line, and you're holding the handrails and pulling yourself up. And there were these kids there, and they were like saying, "Come on, Cal, you got this." And I was like, "What? This is incredible!" Like, I'd grown up playing professional sports where you're getting sworn at by people's parents, and that was my first introduction to the community, was just the supporting nature. And it doesn't feel competitive between each other. It feels competitive with the challenge and the event itself. And I think that unifying people to overcome a challenge is, like, I think it's extraordinary. And that to me builds such a good community. And I love ultra running because of it.
That's a solid answer. So 2019, first 50K, you were doing the UTA, and you had these kids who were supporting you as you were going up these steps and everything. It is an interesting feature, I think, with ultra running. And it's even different than what you see. Well, that's not true. I was about to say in road racing. We make it sound like there's this huge difference between ultra running and road racing, but there are similarities. Like when you guys just did the New York City Marathon, there's 2 million people. Right. Yeah, like it's not like you're not being encouraged. Nobody is there telling you bad things about your competition. So running in and of itself does have a community that is very supportive. That is different than a lot of other sports where you have to hate the opposing players, if you will. Yeah. And so I think it's a really good point. I do think, biased probably, that ultra running has a nicer community than road running. But again, that's me being biased. But I can't disparage the road runners as well, because again, New York City Marathon just took place. You both saw it. You both had a fantastic time doing it, and very supportive community. Anything we want to talk about the marathon before we jump to the ultra stuff, since I just brought up the topic for either of you?
I'll just say the first time I met Cal is we roomed together with another buddy of mine, and he slept for 2 nights on the floor of our hotel before the New York City Marathon. So I think if you want to get a PR in the New York City Marathon, you got to sleep on the floor.
Cal's young.
No, I mean, Steve, you got to put the pillow underneath the knee that's close to the floor. That's the key there, because the pain point. No, that was thanks for the roof, man. I thought I was going to be at Central Park on a bench, so you helped me out there.
I mean, just the marathon itself is crazy. I paced somebody else, and it is like everybody there that's running it and that is spectating it. I was talking to my mom last night. I would say probably 3/4 to probably even like 80 to 90% of the people who are spectating don't even know anybody who's running it. So they're just going out to run it, because there can't be. There's 2.5 million people watching, and there's 60,000 people running. There's got to be people there who have no idea, they don't know anybody who's running. So it's like a huge event for the city.
That's incredible. So Steve mentioned in the intro that you wore a suit this year at the marathon, and I saw a video. I think you posted today on your Instagram account of you and another friend maybe that were running the marathon wearing full suits, not like not a kit, not a running kit, but an actual suit that you would get from a menswear store, right? Carrying a microphone and everything. Why?
It's a great question, mate. My inner thighs are asking the same question with the amount of chafing I've got. But
Right.
a year ago, the same at the New York City Marathon in 2024, where I met Steve, I was just overwhelmed by how many people were there. I'd experienced a marathon a year before. I was working out there, and I was one of those people who didn't know anyone, went to the course, and I was like, this is incredible. This is a race that stops the city. Like, running can literally stop the busiest city in the world and bring people together, and I just thought it was amazing. And to be honest, I think that experience got me into running a lot more, because I just saw like how powerful it was. And yeah, in 2024, I was like, you know what, it'd be really cool. I love meeting people. My granddad, who's one of my idols, he used to embarrass me when I was a kid. He'd just say hi to anybody in like the grocery store, on the train, and I was just embarrassed. And he taught me a lesson, which is like, your best friend could walk past you without you knowing it. Like, say hi to them. And so I started doing that, and I thought last year's marathon would be a good place to meet somebody every mile, and started just doing little fun videos, meeting people, and I've made some of my best friends, brilliant friends, running that marathon, and done it a couple of times. So we did it there, did it at LA. Some of the people I met at LA actually ran with us in New York this year, and I've just met some incredible people. And Sam, I think he ran a 2:43 in Chicago. Like, he is lightning fast. He said, "Hey, I'd love to do it with you this year." And I was like, first of all, I was like, "No way, I'm not keeping up with you. I'm going to relax and do this at my own pace." And he said he promised he'd go slow, but his condition was that we dress up for it. So we thought we'd make it a little bit more fun. And the difference between last year, holding a little microphone in my hand and just pointing in people's faces, asking how are they with a big smile, and actually wearing like a full 3-piece suit with a tie. Like, the reception was insane this year. I think there was 2 million people there, and like, I think we were like yelling at each one of them. It was maybe one of the most like high energy. It was definitely, without a doubt, the highest energy running experience I've ever had. I finished the race, my voice was gone. It was amazing, but absolutely loved it. And I think we'll do it again.
Use anti-chafing cream this time.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't do that.
Steve, is that something you could do? Like, I could never do that, because I'm a complete introvert. Even though I do a podcast and I do that kind of thing, I'm like, oh God, no, I can't have all that conversation going on. But I love what your granddad says about, your best friend could be walking by. Like, that is tight. That is really legit. Steve,
nope,
you?
I could not. Nope, couldn't do it. No way. I'll say hi to people on the course. And
yeah.
But that's about it. That's probably about the furthest we'll go. I was lucky that my brother came up and I had somebody to talk to at the after party.
Well, it's funny, because in ultra running, I've had people that I've worked with, that I coach, but also other friends of mine that do the sport, that tell me, when you see me, just do me a favor. Don't tell me you're doing a good job. They don't even want to be told that. They're like, don't tell me that when I look like crap. Like, yeah, you do look rough, but it's okay to be encouraging. Like, I don't want to be encouraged at all. I was like, I'm going to encourage you anyway. It's funny. So why ultra running? We talked about the fact that you like the community. You ran over in Australia, your first 50K and everything. Obviously, you love the community of just the marathon, and it kind of propelled you into running more as well. But you got into ultra running more. And again, Steve mentioned in the introduction, you just ran the Kodiak 100. Just October 10th is the date. Why? Let me break this up. Let me rephrase my question. Why did you want to run a 100-miler? Like, you've been doing marathons, you've done these other races, you love the community. When you're in a short race like the marathon, you're not going to suffer the same way you are in a 50-mile or 100-mile race. So why would you want to put yourself through that kind of negativity? Because you strike me as somebody who's super positive.
Yeah. So, sometimes I wish I was a little negative. This positivity is like, it takes me in crazy places in this world. But Jeff, it's just like ultra running was something that I found really pushed me. And once again, going back to something my granddad taught me is like he battles with autoimmune diseases and has done his whole life, and he just doesn't complain. He just keeps going. And I've been blessed with good health and good living conditions my whole life. And when I did that 50K in 2019, there were so many times where I thought I couldn't do it. I was like, this is so painful. I want to give up. I want to stop. My friends were there. Other people were there being encouraging, and just like proving yourself wrong is so powerful. And that was my first taste of that in 2019. I kept expanding it out. And then once you prove yourself wrong and you show yourself that you can run a certain distance or you can do a certain time, whatever it might be, you just want to keep proving yourself wrong. So keep pushing the limit. And I genuinely think that the benefits that you can take away to your everyday life are just unmatched. And that's something I think, whether it's confidence or calmness or just like being self-sufficient and knowing that you can handle stress and you can handle pressure, whether it's with work, whether it's with unfortunate events in your life. I think ultra runners are traditionally very resilient people. And I respect, like, all of my friends that are in ultra running are just like, they have fantastic resilience and strength. And I admire that. And I really think that like putting yourself in these challenging environments pulls that out of you, which is amazing. So that's, for me, one of the biggest things for sure. And also I found that running, there's a lot going on in my brain at all times. And I found that running very much filters out everything, and it gets nice and clear, and I do some of my best thinking while I'm running. So I absolutely love getting out there. And then I had a lot of things to think about, and I was like, it's 6-hour run sounds kind of nice here. 8-hour run sounds good. It gets pretty quick.
So I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna go back to what you just said. You said that it was about proving yourself wrong, and can you unpack that a little bit more for me? Like, proving yourself wrong about what?
I think in any challenging environment or an ultra race, like it's, unless you're a freak of nature like Steve, your back will be against the wall, and I think it's only natural for us as humans to doubt that we can do it. It's uncomfortable. You can't see the finish line. It's almost unfathomable that you can keep going, and you're down in a trough and you just push through it, and then you get a little peak again, and you ride those waves all the way through the race. And yeah, I very much have been an optimistic person my whole life, but where I've doubted myself the most has been in ultra running. I've like significantly doubted myself, and I look up to great ultra runners. I've got some really good friends who do it. One of my best friends, Rob, he just finished the Mont Blanc, the UTMB 100, and I was there out crewing him. And when I was running my 100 miler, I was like, I can't do this. And then I was thinking about Steve in Mammoth. I was like, Steve would be about 10% through his race right now, so I'm all right. And then I was like, Rob was getting sideways snow to the face. I'm all right. It's always somebody who's struggling a little bit more than you. And but yeah, I very much think that going through that cycle of facing a challenge, feeling bad and doubting yourself, and then proving that you can overcome those in the face of adversity is really, really empowering.
That's awesome. So let's then jump to the Kodiak, where it was a distance you'd never done before, right? Like you just said. And so there's an element of doubt if this is something you're going to be able to accomplish. When you towed the line and you got to the starting line, when we'll talk about training and all that in a minute, but you do whatever work you needed to do and you stand at the line. Were you doubtful? Were you questioning if you have the feet, the stability, the legs, whatever it is to get this done? Like, what went through your mind at the start of your first 100? That was just a couple of weeks ago.
And it was, sorry, I just want to jump in and because you did the 100K there the year before, right?
That's right.
And it was like, it was a blow up. It was a show up and blow up at that 100K. So.
Oh, we don't even want to tell that story.
Wait. We need to tell that story because I'm asking whether or not you question confidence. So, Steve, show up and blow up?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't coaching him then, so he obviously didn't have the expertise.
You're seeing the difference right here. I'm a very spontaneous person, and even when it comes to running. So, and I actually, as much as I said, I love ultra running because you prove yourself wrong. I was setting myself up for failure by not training properly, and I was like, if I can prove myself wrong here, I'm not ready. I genuinely wasn't ready. But yeah, in 2024, I did the 100K at Kodiak in Big Bear, and I was flying the first 50K. I think I got there at like 7 hours, and I was going great. And then my stomach started to turn, which has never happened to me before, and didn't take on food for a few hours, and I ended up in the middle of the night. I couldn't breathe properly because I'd inhaled so much dust. It was really, really dry out there, and they changed the course, so there was a lot of vehicles on the road kicking up the dirt. So I had a lot of dust. The altitude, I got there, I think at midnight the night before. Like it was completely spontaneous to go out there, and I finished the race wrapped in 3 or 4 space blankets because I'd only have a singlet and like a lightweight windbreaker, and I didn't know it got that cold. So completely unprepared. And after that experience, I said, when I do this again and I do it properly, and that's when I gave Steve a call and said, I really want to prepare. I know how much this is going to take, and I want to be in the best shape and best prepared as I can. And honestly, standing on the line, I was nervous, but I wasn't doubting myself because the preparation we did was the hardest few months that I've ever trained. But it was like I was getting stronger and I was getting better. So yeah, it was great to stand on the line and lean on the training that I'd done for the last 3 months with Steve, and that gave me extra confidence that I was truly able to do this. Running for 32 hours, though, I wasn't prepared for that. Until you get there, you're like, well, this is really a long time.
So I have a follow-up question, unless, Steve, you do. Do you have a question on this? Okay.
Mm-mm.
So you said that it was really hard training. And
Sorry.
so Steve and I have been talking over... What?
I said sorry.
Sorry to you. Yes. You said it was really hard training. But so Steve and I have talked about this past week. We were talking to Brooklyn, who helps us put together the podcast show as well. And the three of us been having the same dialogue. And I was talking to one of my runners as well about this same topic. And you said something that we often gloss over a lot in episodes and shows like this. And not just on this one, but even on other shows, when they tell me about your training and everything, it's like, well, I worked with poles, I worked with nutrition, I worked with hydration. But we seldom talk about the fact that sometimes training is hard, right? And a lot of people see on social media that it's an easy sport, or appears to be easy because everyone's having a great time out at Javelina and looks like a big old party. It must be something we can all do, right? And then we show up and blow up and we're not sure what went wrong. But there is a lot of training that goes into being able to complete the race, not just to compete, but literally to complete it. And so when you say it was hard, why do you say it was some of the hardest thing you've ever done?
A couple of reasons. First reason is I wasn't good at running down hills. And I had to do that a lot. But the main reason for me was I live a busy life and I pack as much as I can into my life. I have a demanding work schedule, and I also just like to relax. I do extreme things to have fun and to socialize, and then I have a lot of my own projects that I do in my spare time, and to try and carve out the time for dedicated sessions, which I'd never done before, was extremely difficult. And as much as a hard physical endeavor it was to do the sessions, it was equally as hard to actually start them and to make the time for them. Like some of them, I'd wake up at 4 a.m. and get out in the morning. Some of them I'd do at 9 at night, and some of them I'd do in the middle of the day. Don't tell my boss, but I think just balancing the training around life and trying not to compromise the rest of the things in my life was really difficult. And it was once again another thing that gave me confidence when I got to the line that I was committed to this. Like I made it work, even when the scheduling got tough or didn't line up with my life. I still got out to the trail and ran up some hills.
I think it's a good point, especially being able to carve out time to be able to do the sessions is probably one of the hardest things that all runners have to deal with, because when you're training for even a marathon, or a 5K, 10K, if you want to compete, you have to be able to get on the road to run. You got to get on the trail to run. And for whatever that is, the 20 weeks, 3 months, like it takes your life over. It takes over your life. I mean, it took over my life for the past, I don't know, 5 years. And I haven't stopped carving out time. I carve out so much time, I quit my job and all I do is run now. But yeah, to be able to, you just have to be consistent and dedicated and find time to do it. That's one of the hardest things.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because when you said it was some of the hardest training you'd done, neither of you said it was a really hard workout. And I think, well, I know you have hard workouts, Cal. Don't mishear that. I'm not saying y'all to do that. But the first thing that comes out of most people's minds when they say this is literally the sacrifice of time that you have to take. And it is a huge sacrifice. And I think that's what we try to tell everybody. You're going to get, if you want to do this sport and just to complete things in the sport, it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of effort. And the most important thing you can do is to understand the amount of time you're going to take away from the things you may enjoy doing that are not necessarily running related. And so that does make it hard. Workout wise, it's got to have been hard workouts too. You said you struggled running downhill. Any issues running down hills? Falling?
Not necessarily falling. I think it's funny how like things just stick with you forever. I when I was younger, I remember being taught to stride out, like just stretch your legs and take as big a step as you can when you're running. And it depends what kind of running you're doing. And I think that some of the techniques that I picked up when I was like a 12-year-old, 13-year-old kid have stuck with me for that time, and making those adjustments is difficult. So I was having some knee pain going downhill, and it was just like the load path when you're leaning back and putting all that weight through your legs. Steve really helped me just like positioning my body, being light on my feet, and it just changed the game. And I think little things like that, like when I first moved to the US, I could only run a mile and then I'd stop because of my knee. I saw a PT and he was actually an ultra runner himself, and he watched me run on a treadmill and he said, shorten your stride. And I shortened my stride, and there I could do 8 miles, like almost overnight. And so, yeah, I think that there's a lot of weaknesses that I have identified with my running, and like making deliberate changes to technique or preparation, whatever it is. It's shown me that you can absolutely improve. I never would have thought that I could run 100 miles and do like 16,000 feet of elevation gain. And a couple of weeks ago I did, and it was because of the specific training and targeting my weaknesses, which is awesome.
Well done, everyone. So let's do it.
Yeah.
So Kodiak 100, it is, like you said, 16,000 feet of elevation. It took place on October 10th. It is located in Big Bear Valley, and you also run part of the HillCREST Trail. From what I understand, it also takes place primarily at 7,000 feet of elevation, so you're up in altitude for most of the race as well. You finished that race in 32 hours, 17 minutes, and 7 seconds. So you spent some time out there, Cal, which we are grateful for because we love to finish regardless of the time. You have 36 hours to finish. You can use every bit of that time, and you get the same buckle as everyone else.
Absolutely.
And we are fans of that. So was it hard? Wait. Steve had you trained, and now you said everything was good. You were ready to roll. It couldn't have been that hard.
It was crazy. I was talking about. No, it was tough. I experiencing Steve, like crewing Steve for his Mammoth 200 was a couple of weeks before was one of the best like preparation like that I could have, because like, I just watched how he managed himself like when he was low and at aid stations, and how he read his body and how he was like strategizing the next aid station, and then also just spending time at elevation out there as well. Me adjust, and I really think that experience helped me go in there with a level head, knowing like aid station management, how to get in and get your things done, and then move on and keep moving. When you're low on food or low on salt, how to like recover from that. So I felt that I was like really well equipped with like a fresh experience. So for the first 50 miles, I was awesome. And I actually, like, there was a couple of my friends. I actually met one of my good friends, Jeremiah. I met him in the 100K in 2024, the year prior. And when I was struggling to breathe, I turned back, and he came up, and I said, "Do you have a ventilator, like an inhaler?" And he remembers me from that. But we saw each other at the start line and together for the first 50. And we were just keeping each other in check. We wanted to be at 50K, feeling like we hadn't taken a single step. We wanted to be a 50-mile ready to go. And we did. Like, we just took it real easy, followed the pace schedule that Steve carved out for me. And it's really easy to get ahead of that. Like, it's really, really easy. Everyone was streaming past us at the beginning, and it took a lot of self-control to not let yourself like stream down the hill. I think that there's it's almost like a 6-mile descent, like straight off the bat out there, and everyone's just launching down, and
Okay.
we saw those faces at like 60, and people like absolutely exhausted because they burnt their legs at the start. And yeah, so it was just, we took it easy for the first 50, which was amazing, and then the night hit, and that was where things got interesting. So I had my first hallucination, which was sweet. Saw a little possessed child, which scared the heck out of me. I was like, some people have good hallucinations. I had a terrible one. I think I just watched the new Conjuring, and I do not recommend watching a horror film within any training block to an ultra marathon. Like, just don't do it. But that was interesting. But yeah, it got really difficult. I think 50 miles deep was where it's just hard to feel good that deep in a race. And I was kind of not disappointed, but I was like, oh, I can't believe this is hard. I was so prepared. I fueled so well. I haven't missed like a single like salt tablet. I'm on good pace. I can't believe this is getting hard. And that's the nature of what we're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So embracing that was good. And it was a bit of a struggle from 60 to 60, so like 55 to 65. And then I picked up my pacer, George, and like that just turned my entire race around. Like having somebody who can be out there with you, and they're fresh, so they're not loopy like you are, and they can just keep you accountable. And that's what Jeremiah and I were doing the first 50. And I think I got on like a little bit of an alone patch for 15 miles there, and George brought me back, and it was just amazing to finish the race with him. So incredible experience out there. Amazing support group. I had like 10 of my friends out there just helping me, which was incredible. And then the volunteers, everyone was just so ecstatic to be there. Like, these are people who are like sacrificing days and days of their life to stand in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the night, tipping like ramen down your throat. They're special people. But yeah, I had a great experience, and like the feeling crossing the line was like nothing I'd ever felt before. I'd done 50Ks, 100Ks, but this was something I'd been looking forward to for a couple of years, and having the experience I had last year with the 100K, getting absolutely chewed up and spat out by the course, and then like really, really getting serious and preparing, crossing that line with my friends, and just being proud of the training that we did for the last few months was a feeling I'll never forget. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was incredible. I was on the WhatsApp message with it, and I was getting all the messages. It was, I mean, I think you had like 40 people on the WhatsApp messenger just giving them encouragement and seeing that. So that was really cool.
So you said it was hard, and I'm not going to try to overemphasize that, but a lot of times, I'll make it about me, even though it shouldn't be about me. So some of the people that I work with, I'll give them, they live in eastern North Carolina, where I am. It's completely flat, or they live in Florida or wherever it is. And so there's no hills or anything like that. So we do treadmill workouts a lot. Like, we'll get on the treadmill where we'll just kind of march up a treadmill at a 15% incline for a long time. And so the reason we do this a lot is we want to get used to this feeling of just this continual climb, this continual grind. And most of the runners that I give that type of workout to absolutely hate me. And so I'm okay with that. But I always remind them that there's going to come a time in a race that you're going to be in a difficult situation, and you're going to reflect back to something you did in training that you're like, oh, I did something similar to like this. Was there anything during the race that you can point back to in training that said, I know we did this, and this kind of prepared me for this experience, or something like that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm blessed living in Santa Cruz, California. We have amazing trails out here, and I don't have to travel far for incline, which is great. The the thing that I remember in training is like we did a long run. I think Steve was like 25 miles and maybe 5,000 feet or something. And I chose to do that up in the Marin County area and went to Mount Tam, which if you've ever been up there, like Northern California, it's stunning, north of San Francisco. And that run, I was like, my legs were so heavy. I think it was just a accumulated training debt, and my legs were so heavy. And I was climbing up one of the biggest mountains in the San Francisco area, and just digging deep and getting it done. And I knew that I had a gelato waiting for me in Sausalito. And I was like, I just need to finish this run, and then I can go have my ice cream. And I remember being out there in a race, and it was a hill before Sugarloaf. So there's a mountain called Sugarloaf, which is at 65, and I think it peaks at 9,950 feet, and it's like a 7-mile climb up to the top, and it might be like 3,000 feet. I'm not sure specifically, but it's just a climb all the way to the top, and 65 miles deep. My legs were just hammered. They felt so heavy. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, there's an ice cream at the top of this hill. It rang a bell, and it wasn't an ice cream. It was like it was a gel, but I think it was a similar feeling, and just knowing that I was able to overcome the heavy legs in my training just gave me the strength to knuckle down and do it.
That's great.
Hey, I was going to say, you better say it did.
It helped.
So mile 50
out there without proper training, I reckon.
All right, mile 50, you recognize this is harder than I thought. Miles 50 to 64, you were in a solo world before you picked up your pace. Or mile 65, you're now climbing a Sugarloaf, but you got your friend. You got ice cream, also known as a gel, at the top of this mountain. At some point, we have, at some point in a race, we have points that are great, we have points that are bad, and we have, for those who finish the race, I call them like pivot points. There's a point in the race where you're like, I'm going to finish this thing. Like you feel it, like you know it's been rough, it's been difficult, but all of a sudden you're like, I'm going to push through. Yeah. Did that happen at any point during this race? And do you remember when it was?
100%. Yeah, it's clear as day. So we got to the top of, I think it's called Snow Summit. Mm-hmm. It's the last aid station, and you have like 8.6 down to the.
So mile 92.
Yeah, mile 92. It took me all the way to then. I was seriously in a bad way. Like I just couldn't believe that I was still out there. Right? It went on, but mile 92, I kind of hiked up to the top of Snow Summit, and my legs were rough and they were sore, and there was so much pain. I'd try to run and it would hurt, so I'd stop and I'd start walking again. And there was just this moment where I was like, I don't want to be out here anymore. I want to get this finished. So I started running, and it hurt, and I ran a little bit faster, and it hurt a little bit more, and then I ran a little bit faster, and like the pain stayed kind of the same. And I was like, oh, here we go. So I started running down the hill from the top, and getting some groove back, like actually like seeing the trees go past you, and just like feeling yourself move, like look back at the watch and be like, oh, I did half a mile, not 0.06. It was just nice to, like, that point was the turning point for me, where I was like, I'm definitely going to finish here, and this is an amazing feeling. So it was like a party with me and George for the last 8 miles, because I got that confidence back, and I was actually ticking over miles at a faster pace. And then with about 4 miles to go, you can hear the announcer. You can hear the town. And I just, like, it makes me so happy thinking about it, because I was like, you're waiting. You've been waiting for this the whole time, and it's the middle of the night at this point. So it was just awesome to hear that. But yeah, the last 8 miles was so much fun because of that turning point.
That's awesome.
Incredible. Yeah.
So at the end, you have this last 8 miles, you get to the finish line. Other than when you thanked Steve, and I'm sure just constantly just gushed over Steve, just being just so grateful for him. Or not. Anyway,
I didn't think it was hard though. We still need to do that, mate.
Yeah. So what was that? What was it like when you crossed the finish line? This was your first 100. You have, like you said, training was hard. Like, what was that emotion like?
It just like, yeah. you asked me why I do this thing, and I said it's for the community and for proving yourself wrong. And this one was a special race for me because I dedicated to my granddad. He's like absolutely my idol in life, and he has battled autoimmune disease his whole life. And he was actually a really good runner and a cyclist and a boxer when he was younger, and that got it all taken away from him, and his life was reduced. And he's always just said to me, like, push yourself while you can. You don't know when it'll be taken from you. And I was thinking about him the whole time because me and my family started a charity organization called HillCREST, and it is really, its purpose is to spread awareness for autoimmune disease. He's got a syndrome called CREST syndrome, which is a subset of systemic sclerosis. Like your immune system attacks your body's tissue essentially, and he can't eat anymore. He can't walk that well, and just thinking of him the whole time when I was out there was amazing. Knowing that I was going to share a phone call with him, that like when I finished and told him what I did, was incredible, and just having all my friends there was amazing. So I had two friends who, there's a little airport in Big Bear, and I sent to the WhatsApp group. I said, I was like on a shakeout run, and I sent a photo of the airport, and I tagged a couple of people and said, hey, the airport looks good. And two of my friends flew their planes out, landed there, supported me for the finish, which, seeing some people who I didn't expect to see there, was a surprise. And just like sharing that experience with some of my best friends, I was just like, I wanted to cry. I never cry. I genuinely, like, it was so overwhelming, and it was a feeling that I want to have again, because like it just like it was truly what life was about, was that it doesn't matter what else is going on in the world. Something like that, just like, it just is so positive and just amazing. And yeah, I absolutely loved it.
So, if you don't mind me asking, how is your grandfather now? Did you tell him about your race and how it went?
Yeah. So his name's Frank. He lives in Albany in Western Australia, and we have phone calls, and he absolutely loves talking. But the last few years, his voice has degraded, so it's much more difficult to talk to him. But get him on the FaceTime, and I can do some lip reading. But I basically held up the buckle to him with the shirt with his freshly minted logo for his charity, and he was so proud. He said, like, that's the most extraordinary thing ever, and he was just astounded that I dedicated something like that to him. Like, as a grandfather, I like, he just said, like, he doesn't deserve that, and I absolutely said, you deserve this and the rest, because I have a lot that I can thank him for. And it was amazing. So he's going well. I speak to him every couple of days here, and yeah, we haven't spoken to him since the suits effort though, so he might look at me differently after that.
He won't. He'll love the fact that you were making friends out there with the microphone. That's his whole goal, right? So we normally at the very end of the show tell people how they can stay connected. But before we're nowhere near that yet. I don't want to bypass this opportunity. So the organization you're talking about that you guys have just started is called, according to Instagram, Hills for HillCREST. And your byline or tagline I thought was phenomenal on that. It says, every mountain is different. And so when I read that, I thought, that is a very personalized tagline for each individual that listens to this, is that we all have obstacles, we all have hurdles, we all have our own mountain, if you will, and it's different. Like, your grandfather has a mountain of an autoimmune disease that is just like crushing him from the inside out, if you will, and there's no other way of saying that. And every person that listens and is dealing with this world that we live in has their own hurdles as well. And so I think it's a really good, pointed tagline, pointed organization that you're part of, that you're starting. I think it's really commendable. Again, if you're interested in learning more about it, you can go to Hills for HillCREST on Instagram. That is where you will find more about it, and I think it's really cool. And so I'm glad you shared it.
It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, it's so special, and I think I just like I said, I've just grown up my whole life seeing him deteriorate, and his mountain keeps getting bigger and bigger, and he keeps climbing, and that, to me, has just been so inspiring, and I've benefited a lot from that, and I hope others can benefit from that mindset as well.
Well, what's interesting I find about that is that your grandfather, like you said, he is deteriorating, right? But on the flip side, he's actually not. Like his legacy, who he is, what he's about, like what you're doing is actually expanding. And we tend to think of deteriorating as like coming smaller, but he's actually expanding. And so again, commendable and a lot of respect for what you're doing for him and as well. And I think he has truly inspired you with some really good things he's passed along as well. I think he shaped you to who you are. Yeah. Kudos, man. Yeah, for sure. It's admirable. It really is. Let's go back to crew though. You had all these people fly in. You've had so many people. You had 40 people on a WhatsApp. You had 10 people there cheering you on. You had Steve bending your ear, I'm sure, at any point. You mentioned in the email that you sent us in relation to crew, you said, when your back is against the wall, people get me through. Now, what does it mean that people get you through when your back is against the wall for you?
I'm an extrovert. I love just a little bit. I love people, and I love making connections and maintaining connections with people. And some of the most unsuspecting situations have led me to great friends and great opportunities. And having some people from like all different walks of life there to support me was incredible. But I really think that when you're in a tough time, when you're having a tough time and your back's against the wall, to say that when you have the support of others or the hope of others or whatever it might be, it just gives you that fire. For me, it does for sure. So every aid station or every few, there was a different set of people there, and it was just even a little smile, could make the difference. Like didn't even have to say a word. Like just seeing them there. Seeing my friend Vanessa, she like I know her from work. I didn't even know her that well. She came out to crew me for a couple of days out in the middle of nowhere in Big Bear, and she was like, she'd grab my water bottles, run and go fill them up, and it's just like a little thing like that where these little gestures, that people are truly there to support you. It's a small thing that can mean the world to you, and for me, having crew there is yeah, I'll do that every time because it was just like it was like a superpower when you see the people that you care about there supporting you.
Steve, my vision of this is expanding way too much. So, because when I think of crew, I think of people that are really close knit and really like I'm very tightly connected to. But your personality doesn't require that. Your personality is like, if I've talked to you for 30 minutes, all of a sudden we're friends and you can come to this with me and we can relate. Like, I find that pretty freeing, also completely terrifying and overwhelming for somebody like my personality. But there's a lot about it I think is really neat because I don't have that personality, but I see how, I mean, I do that when I go to an aid station. I'm very like friendly to the people, but I don't see them as crew. These random people who are like, oh, let me take your water bottle and stuff. But you kind of expand that relationship circle, if you will, in a way that not a lot of us do. And I think that's probably why you just have this different, bigger than life personality at times. I think just carries you well.
I mean, I've seen them. It just effortlessly find friends anywhere. I mean, it could be on the street in New York, or I think every single aid station I came into at Mammoth, he had a new friend. Or the same friend from the last aid station. He was talking to somebody. There was even a guy from New Zealand, and they coming in and they were ribbing each other when I came in to like one of the aid stations at Mammoth, and I'm like, what the heck?
Kiwis, can't trust.
Well, my take home point from all this is that I apparently have a brand new friend.
Absolutely, you do. Thanks.
I'm going to learn to embrace that, right? So the other thing that Steve and I were talking about as we were preparing for this is this topic of recovery. We're going to just talk about this for a minute, then we're going to kind of wrap up in a second. But a lot of runners, when they run an ultra, you said, I love this, I'm going to do another one. I see myself doing these as well. And you don't necessarily have to have something on your schedule at this point, but what does recovery look like for you following a big effort?
For me, there was like, I think more so than the physical exhaustion, it was a lot of mental exhaustion. Like I really, really was surprised by how much of a hit it had mentally. Working, getting straight back into work, I had to travel for work, and I didn't even give myself a couple of days off. So it was, the mental exhaustion was significant for me. And how I recovered, I don't know. I didn't sleep that much. I definitely should have slept more. I think that's what I was missing. I think the mental exhaustion for me was something I wasn't expecting for it to have that much of an impact on me. And yeah, I think I would have different ways to deal with that next time, but definitely lots of sleep and lots of food. My appetite was super low as well. There was
That's weird. It's usually the other way around.
yeah, it was just like a little bit flat. Like I usually eat a lot of food, and I just felt like fairly off for a couple of weeks, and I just think that it was just complete exhaustion. Like you just
Mm-hmm.
push yourself a lot, and you got to give yourself time. I'm used to bouncing back in a day or two, and that wasn't the case here.
Yeah, and I also think that one of the things you also went back to Australia, like in the middle of it too. There was like, how many weeks was there between this and New York City? Like 3 weeks, and then one of the weeks in between there, you went back to Australia for like
Yeah,
a day. It looked like.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it wasn't much time at all. It absolutely wasn't much time at all. So I think what it was like October 10th was the 100, and then it was November 2nd
Yeah.
was New York City. So yeah, it wasn't much time to turn around.
All right, I think we're gonna pause here for a second. Jeff
Sure.
can't see Jeff.
So obviously we had a little bit of technology issues, but and for the sake of time, we do want to move over to what we have this segment we call Coach's Corner. So Cal, at the end of each of our episodes, we do a segment where we invite listeners to ask a question of those who are guests, as well as Steve and I as the coaches. And the questions can come from a variety of listeners, and sometimes they come from people who are really close and near and dear to our hearts. And this question actually came from Brooklyn because she is preparing for one of her races that's coming up in 2 weeks. And Brooklyn, like I said, she works with us on the podcast, and she said, "Can you guys answer this question for me?" We've already given her the answer, but she wanted us to share it here too. But anyway, comes from Brooklyn, and she says, because she has a race coming up in a couple of weeks, how do you caffeine taper? What's the right schedule? And should I even bother doing a caffeine taper in the first place? So if nobody knows what that means, it means basically you stop taking caffeine, cold turkey, whatever it is, for a period of time, or you need to kind of, slowly get off of caffeine. The idea is that you have no caffeine in your system before a race. So again, the question is, how do you do it? What's the right schedule? And should you even bother? Steve?
So, I mean, I think also it's dependent upon how much caffeine you're taking in before you start the caffeine taper. Because if you're taking an inordinate amount, like a couple coffees a day or couple energy drinks a day, I think the caffeine taper compared with your regular taper is just a recipe for disaster because you're going to be having the caffeine withdrawals with headaches and issues like that. And then when you get right back on it at the race, it's going to hop you back up. But if it's normal, I would start about 2 weeks out, I think, and then just kind of cut out all caffeine, no sodas, no nothing. And then I don't think it'll affect you like during the race too much. It'll just give you that little amp as you're up like later on in the race. That's kind of when I would hit the caffeine.
Yeah, I think I don't have much to add to that other than, I mean, I agree with everything you said. I've had runners do the caffeine taper and with some success. And I think it probably makes the most sense if you're looking at a race that's going to be done within 36 hours, right? If you're talking about a 200-mile race, it's going to be 4 or 5 days. At what point do you start retaking caffeine? Because, I mean, I don't understand. But if you're like doing a 24-hour to 36-hour race and it's the middle of the night and you need to kind of re-engage, that would make more sense at that point to get you your pick-me-up. But even then, like, what does that look like? Are you going to start taking, Monster Energy drinks at every single aid station? I don't know. And so I recommend if you do try to do a caffeine taper that you don't experiment with this your first time going into your first race. You don't do it at your race. You do it in training at some point, midway to see how a caffeine taper works and your caffeine kick and see if it gave you any energy in the middle of the night. That's what I'd recommend. Any additional thoughts you may have on that, Cal?
Well, I didn't drink caffeine at all, really. It was it's interesting. I need a reverse taper. I think
Used to it.
Yeah, so I actually had to practice a couple of times with some caffeine gels, but yeah, I don't drink coffee as much as I like it. Yeah, I don't take caffeine day to day, so it was nice to be able to throw that into the training and just like get like a hyper response to caffeine like a little bit, and yeah, I definitely used it late in the race. It was helpful, but definitely not from the beginning. Like I really, really held off as much as I could because I know that my body's not super used to that. So just putting a lot of it in whilst you're also exerting yourself, I thought was going to be a problem. So I think holding off, it helps, and I didn't have any negative effects. So yeah.
Well, you actually make a good case study because since you don't ever take caffeine, you are constantly tapered. And so you eliminated the whole headache thing, right? And you do recognize the stimulant side of it in the middle of the night to kind of give you that extra kick. So in that regard, you actually provide evidence-based theory on this from yourself, at least an N of 1. So that's helpful. But anyway, that was Coach's Corner. And again, thank you, Brooklyn. I do wish you the best of luck this upcoming week. I guess it's in 2 weeks for your race from now. And so I'm excited to see how she does as well.
Brooklyn.
Yeah, for sure. And if you've got any questions that you would like to have us answer on the show, please submit them through Instagram to us, and we will include them in one of our future episodes. Cal, it has been an absolute pleasure getting to know you. I know you've got to cut it short. You've got some things, people beating on your door to come talk to you. We appreciate you taking the time to spend it with us. And what's the best way for people to stay connected if they want to follow your journey, other than Hills for HillCREST, which we already told them?
Yeah, I think Caltitude on Instagram with 2 underscores each side. That's my best point of contact.
Awesome. Caltitude, 2 underscores. Well, Cal, again, thank you for the time. And we look forward to kind of getting to know you a little bit more. Obviously, we're all best friends now, which is fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm glad to be added to the friend circle. For those listening, thank you for taking the time to download the episode and taking this with you on your run. We really appreciate you. Make sure you do us a favor and you like, subscribe, follow Cal, follow Steve, follow me, follow Blueprint, and just make sure that you are part of the community. And if you've got a guest recommendation, we'd love to hear it as well. But again, thank you all, and we will see you soon. See ya.
Have a good one.
See ya.